Since we're all here, you'll be the alternate tonight. Thank you for.
Yep.
Our first public hearing is actually at 7:15 tonight, so we're going to skip over that until 7:15. And we're going to move to our administrative items first. And the first item is the approval of minutes from 8/4/25. Anyone have any comments or any corrections on it?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for 8/4/25.
Thank you, Bob. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Scott. We'll take a vote on that.
Bob Largis, aye.
Scott Paul, aye.
Mike Gagan, aye.
Bill Talcott, aye.
Wesley Stanhope, aye.
Erica McCollum, aye.
Okay, thank you. That motion passes 5-0 for the minutes. The next item, we have a filing for our next meeting, and is it on 9/22, Jen? Is that the
Yep,
next one in 2
9/22.
weeks? And it is from Manchog Mills, Inc., 9 Main Street, a site plan approval and special permit for Valencourt.
Right, so that's a application for a special permit for a function/event space in accordance with the bylaw passed at Springtown meeting by citizens petition, which has since been approved by the Attorney General's office. So that's your first special permit under that new special permit ability. So
Okay, thank you. We have a time on that yet, Jen, for the?
7, I think that one's at 7 o'clock.
Okay. So that public hearing will be at 7 PM on 9/22/25. Is that correct? The next item we have is a letter correspondence, concerns with tree planting in the cemeteries.
Yes, so you have the letter. Ross Weaver, who does just an amazing amount of beautiful headstone restoration work with his headstone restoration crew, and in consultation with Jimmy Johnson and Jimmy Renault, who are the cemetery commissioners. And he just wanted to, he was watching the planning board meeting, and he saw the part where we were talking about West Sutton Road and how the trees, some of the trees that were removed were being replanted at the new section of Armsby Road Cemetery. So he just sent this letter to you. I did explain to him that this is really the purview of the tree warden and the town manager from a policy perspective, so it will really be up to them to decide if the trees ultimately go in that new section of the cemetery. But he asked that this be shared with the planning board, just so it's on your radar, and so I wanted to make sure you got this letter. So he has very valid concerns, obviously. It's nice to see trees in cemeteries and not be in kind of a wide open area, but that has consequences if you don't properly fund the maintenance of those trees in your cemeteries and your public parks. So, you know me, I'm always whining about proper maintenance of everything we have, but, I think Ross makes some really good points here. And it's obviously not your decision, but the town manager, the highway superintendent, who is the tree warden, will be making the decision about the ultimate placement of the trees that were given to the town coming out of that scenic roadway public shade tree process over on West Sutton Road.
Yeah.
So,
No, I agree with you on that, I mean, he took a lot of nice pictures and a nice little presentation of, things
did
you
a
don't
great
think
job.
about that.
no, you don't. And
The trees within there, yeah.
And he does a lot of work repairing headstones that have been killed by a tree that wasn't properly maintained, or just that got old, Things get old and they, So, and he spends a lot of time doing amazing repairs on those, so it's a good perspective to get, so.
Okay, thank you. And the second correspondence letter is the Wilkinsville Water District floodplain bylaw.
Yeah, I think you guys are used to seeing every once in a while, as they shift regulations on public water supplies or stormwater management or whatever, the town or the jurisdiction in which these water sources are or stormwater applies to are requested to bring their bylaws in compliance with current state regulations or state law. So obviously, we cannot make these requested changes for fall town meeting. That warrant is closed. But I did reply to the Water District that we'll take a look at these requests for Springtown meeting and see if our bylaws need to come into compliance with this, and if they do, propose the appropriate potential bylaw changes to make sure we're in compliance. So,
Thank you. I don't know if there's any other business at this point, Jen? that
Now, we did
wasn't made,
get, there is one hearing notice. It wasn't anything huge. We have 8 single-family attached homes going in Grafton at 277 Providence Road. Little baby multifamily over there. And the town of Northbridge is adopting a 40R, Smart Growth District. So I already stole their bylaw. So next year or whenever we decide to go ahead with 40R, we have a copy of a local town's 40R regulations. So, and I had a brief conversation with the Northbridge planner at a planner gathering about that 2 weeks ago as well. So, some interesting stuff going on in the region.
Okay. And the Central Mass Regional Planning first, is that this week, next week? I
On-
thought, it's this Thursday, though, right? I didn't have it in my, I believe so,
The
yeah.
quarterly.
The quarterly meeting
Okay.
at Anthony's in Auburn, so
There you
some
go.
of us will be attending
In person.
in person, yep.
There you go.
Again, it's a really good program because when we do go, representatives from the town, we get some hours to be used by them, so,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, we get 12 hours of local planning assistance automatically by being a member community, but every time one of our delegates or alternates goes to these quarterly meetings and certain other meetings, we get an additional hour of local planning assistance time, up to double the hours, so up to 24 hours in a year, and we use them. So a lot of towns don't, but we use them.
Yeah, that's great. You have a comment, Bill? You look like you have.
Is every town in the whatever district it is part of the Central Mass Regional
Now,
Planning
there are a
Commission?
few towns who are not member communities. They just choose not to pay the allotment, but it's only like, I think ours is less than $3,000 a year, or it's right around, it's nothing for the ability to be able to reach out to CMRPC. I mean, there's things I reach out to them for on a regular basis that never get charged against our local planning assistance hours. So it's a really good resource to have. So it's kind of a no-brainer from my perspective, but I do not believe all of them are member communities. There are 40 in the city of Worcester, and they're all assessed under something, but I don't think they are all have chosen to be members.
Moving on, I mean, can we go to the action item before then, Jen? Is that?
Yeah, you can do the
Because
Form
we still
A.
got
Again,
5
the
minutes.
action items are not public hearing items, so that
Right.
they can be taken up at any
Taken
point.
up at any time?
Mhm.
Okay, so we do have an action item on 43 Southwick Road, 2 new lots.
Yeah, if you want me to show that, I'll pull that up for you. This is a pretty basic one. Sorry. Fumbling around here a little bit. Okay. Rotate that around. Okay, now I'm gonna share it. Okay. You see a tiny little piece of it there. All right. Shrink that down so you can see this. We do have Ralph from Alpha Omega on the line if you have any questions, but this one's pretty straightforward. This is an existing parcel along Southwick Road owned by Ron Anger, and his house here is on the center portion. And you can see he's dividing off a piece to this side of his home, to the kind of the northeast of his home, and to the southwest of his home. These are compliant parcels. You have my checklist. The taxes are paid. So it's pretty straightforward. forward. But Raouf is online if you have any questions for him. Any questions?
I don't.
So, I do have, so what, I see that there's no stamp. You have a note that it's on file.
There's no stamp on this because it's an electronic version. You'll see the stamp is on the final plan.
Any questions, Scott, on it?
Scott being an engineer. Engineer question.
That's not a bad thing.
No.
I'll make a motion to approve the A&R plan submitted for Anger on
43.
993.
993 at 43, 27 Southwick Road.
Or 43 Southwick Road is the current number.
43
Sorry.
AKA 27
Yep.
Southwick Road.
I don't know why it says AKA. 3/25 is the date, and it shows 2 new buildable lots.
3 lots, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, a remainder. So 2 new, 1 existing.
I'll second that.
That's Scott.
Okay, thank you, Bob. We're gonna take a vote on that.
Bob Rogers, aye.
Scott Paul, aye.
Mike Gagan, aye.
Bill Talcott, aye.
Wesley Stanhope, aye.
Eric McCollum, aye.
This motion passes 500. Thank you. The last item we have is our public hearing at 7:15. I don't know if it's quite 7, it's 1 minute away, so
All right.
Unfortunately, it'll be fast. Forest Edge.
Oh, Forest
yeah.
Edge, we just continue to move forward. That is moving forward. The building commissioner had a really cool composite plan of the 4 little plans that John Bruce submitted, and he colorized it all, and he was scheduling a meeting with him to have a heart-to-heart about compliance with the approved plan with at least 4 different colors of highlighter on it. So I suspect it will be a detailed conversation, and then he will report back to the town manager, myself, and town council about next steps. So,
So keep it on the agenda.
yes,
I'm anxious to move it off the agenda.
as are we all.
If we could bill them for all our time every time we look at this, I think he'd speed it up.
That would be nice.
Okay.
Okay, so the time is now 7:15, so we are gonna open our public hearing on the fall 2025 proposed bylaw amendments. If somebody could read the notice, appreciate it.
I got it. In accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 5, the Sutton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, September 8th, 2025, at 7:15 on the 3rd floor in the Sutton Town Hall, Oxford, Mass. For the purpose of considering proposed amendments to the town zoning bylaw and overlay zoning map as follows. Do we have to read the rest, Jen?
I would give a summary at least of
All
what we're
right.
considering, yes.
Number 1, create multifamily overlay district on the overlay district zoning map available in the town clerk's office, where it is located at 10 and 17 Galaxy Pass, assesses map 10, parcel 151, and assesses map 11, parcel 9, and also at 15 Pleasant Valley Road, assesses map 10, parcel 93. And 2, amend the table of use regulations to allow multifamily dwellings by right within the multifamily overlay district.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Just a little clarification on the notice. The meeting is tonight, Monday, September 8th, where, and the notice, it did say Wednesday,
Oh, did it?
September 8th, so I don't, hopefully that's not
Yeah, no.
the date is correct.
They
Just-
actually have made several rulings on that kind of typo. It's an unintentional clerical error, so it should be
Okay.
fine. But I'll
Thanks, Mike.
double check just to make sure.
Yep,
Yep.
Thank you. Jen, do you want to give any
Yeah,
opening
I
on this, if you
have-
don't mind, just to?
I have a very brief, literally a 4-slide presentation because most of the people I see here have gone through this information about 1 million times or have hopefully availed themselves of the plethora of information available on the town's website on the subject. So, here we go. If you want me to pause for something, let me know. Otherwise, we're gonna just roll right through that. Pam, can I shrink the black up? Thank you. All right, so what are we talking about tonight? We are talking about Chapter 40A, Section 3A, the multifamily zoning as of right law, otherwise known as the MBTA housing law. So this is the only article going to town meeting this fall to eliminate any possible confusion. So MBTA housing only for town meeting. In the white box up here in the corner, I am giving you just the super brief summary here. Basically, 177 communities with or near NBTA services must establish a district where multifamily housing is allowed by right at a density of at least 15 units per acre. This little timeline here takes you through all the major dates from enactment to the First Amendment, which reduced Sutton's requirements from 750 units down to 181 units, to the first ruling by the courts on the Milton case, upholding the law, to emergency guidelines, to the opinion from the state auditor that it was an unfunded mandate, to the final regulations being issued, to the remaining suits on June 6th and 27th related to unfunded mandates being dismissed by 2 different Superior Court judges. As of 9/2/25, 112 of the 177 communities are compliant or conditionally compliant, and 140 have submitted districts for action. There's a lot of reasons behind this. I felt no need to belabor you with them. The major points are housing production since the 60s in the state of Massachusetts and in Sutton, if you look at our building permit curve, looks a lot like this. We've drastically dropped in our amount of both single-family and multifamily housing production. You can see multifamily housing production has, the darker blue, has always been a smaller part of production, except for in the 70s when it was almost 50-50. And moving on through time, it's gotten even less. Why is multifamily important? Multifamily is important for, this is one of the reasons it's important. This is the change in housing costs just since 2010. If you looked at the curve since 2000 and before that, you'd see an even more striking story here. The top line is the increase in single-family housing costs. The bottom line is the cost in wages. So as this gap widens, affordability becomes tougher for single-family homes for a larger percentage of the population, leaving them with really no option but kind of multifamily housing. And this is Sutton's, from the assessor's record, Sutton's housing types, and you can see in the town of Sutton, if I blew it up really giant, you could see that 96% of homes in the town of Sutton are single family. So, and this is kind of mirrored in a lot of the state. So, contrary to popular belief, I threw in this image just to freak you all out. Contrary to what you've heard on the news and to some people's beliefs, this bylaw does not force giant multi-story housing developments like this one, though that one is kind of wild. So these pictures you see here are in effect housing at 15 units per acre. This one is exactly 15 units per acre, and this one is 3 units on 0.15 acres, so about 1/5 of an acre. So if you had 5 of these on an acre, you just met 15 units per acre. So the point here is this is a red herring unless you're really just not creative with your zoning. You can create quite lovely and normal housing at 15 units per acre without doing this or anything like that. So that's kind of the background. So what's the cost of noncompliance? Loss of discretionary funding, we've talked about this a little. The law is very specific. You can't apply to certain grant programs. Additionally, regulations can influence your competitiveness in other grant programs and funding categories, and legal issues. You can have defense costs. Our lawyers estimated defense on this subject as of March could run anywhere from $20,000 to $60,000. Costs to defend yourself against not just noncompliance with the law, but anti-discrimination laws and fair housing laws and contempt action and fines. So what that boils down to is you have a choice. This entire article is about a choice. Two choices. A, choose to comply, retaining the ability to pick where development might occur, might being the key word. There is no production mandate in this law. You do not have to build a single unit. You just have to provide a specific area that will house up to 181 units at a density of 15 units per acre. You don't have to guarantee sewer or water. You don't have to do anything. It just has to be available for the potential of production, okay? So that's why I've used the word might in that first option. Or B, choose not to comply and just deal with the potential legal issues and potential of having a location choice made for you, depending on how things roll out at the state level. This is your whole choice here, okay? So what's the plan? What do we do about the plan? The planning board appointed the Housing Production Plan Working Group. Their primary charge was to update our housing production plan, which deals with affordability in housing, and the group, as was done in the last update, went above and beyond. And they looked at housing more holistically throughout the town, and they looked at the MBTA law because it's a pressing housing issue. The group consisted of 14 diverse people all across town. They worked with myself and Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. We assessed 6 different areas/parcels, and we thought about things like, if you have multifamily housing, what are the smart growth principles, especially if you're at 15 units per acre? You want to be near public water and sewer. You want to be near a good transportation network. You want, ideally, to have nearby services like a grocery store or different places where people can shop and do business. The group, in the end, chose a combination of 10 and 17 Galaxy Pass and 15 Pleasant Valley Road. The parcel provides enough area to meet the total unit count, 181. The compliance model actually came up to 212 units, whether you could get that or not. That's what it calculated, so just barely above what we needed. And again, we went back to the key of taking a look at only looking in locations where this would make some sense from a smart growth perspective. A subgroup of the HPP formulated the bylaw itself. So you're picking an area and then you're formulating a bylaw. We started with existing bylaws from Newburyport, from Concord and Dover. Newburyport's bylaw was approved way back in December of 2024. So we started with an approved bylaw. Concord's is conditionally approved, and Dover is in the process, so we took a look at their draft as well. The draft was then compared to the state model to try to ensure consistency with the law. The draft district and the bylaw were run through the compliance model, and the language was reviewed briefly by CMRPC. The area met the compliance bylaw, no problem. And there were some minor tweaks made to the language by CMRPC before the Housing Production Plan Working Group voted to recommend that bylaw. Then everything was submitted to the state for pre-adoption compliance, which is not generally available when you do bylaw changes. In this case, there was a specific process where you could submit your bylaw and they committed to a 90-day or less review of your bylaw. Comments were made and they were received in August. So we only received them less than a month ago. Town council conducted multiple reviews. They conducted an initial review. Those comments, other than a few minor ones that we'll go over, were integrated into the bylaw that's been on the town's website and on file with the town's clerk's office. And last week, town council made some additional reviews that or changes we'll go through tonight just briefly. The Housing Production Plan Update Working Group, their recommendation was, they recommended compliance was the best option. So, this is the district that is proposed. This is a I shouldn't say fully developed district, but it's a very largely developed district. The point is, there is an ability to create multifamily housing here. Is it likely anytime soon? That's anybody's guess. But there is an ability to create multifamily housing here. What you're seeing is the Market 32 on Galaxy Pass, the Unibank, Bruno's, the car wash over here, Love to Play in the dialysis center, as well as Starbucks, Five Guys. So you're basically talking a 3-parcel district, Convenient MD in the middle, that is largely developed to date. Our bylaw allows up to 3 stories, so you could do something on top of the Starbucks or on top of the dialysis center. In speaking with the owners of Galaxy Pass, that's not at the forefront of their development plans, but you could. And this fully meets the state's compliance model. Again, you're next to transportation corridors, you're next to things like restaurants and grocery, you have the availability of water and sewer, all smart growth principles. So this is the recommendation of the Housing Production Plan Working Group. And I'm just going to pause right here to see if there's any questions on this before we dive into just a scoot through the bylaw. Questions? Questions?
We're taking questions from the peanut gallery right now.
That's up to the chairman.
Yes, yeah.
Sure.
I guess a clarification. Jen, did we?
Can you please state your name and your address first?
Yeah, of course. This is Jim Edamarna, 28 Eight Lots Road.
Uh-huh.
And I was a member of the HPP working group, as well as a current selectman. So I'm here as a citizen and a former member of the HPP group. I guess just as clarification, my recollection is we did not, on HPP, we did not answer the question of whether or not we should comply. It was more, we took that as an assumption that we are going to apply. And then the big question we answered was where to put it. Is that a fair statement, Jen?
I believe there was an actual vote to recommend that compliance was the best action or the best option, but there's other members here who can weigh in. But I believe that was an actual vote, that the HPP recommended that compliance was the best option.
I'll have to go back and double check on exact notes on it or what kind of way you want to word it, but that we would recommend the actual compliance.
As opposed to
Not complying.
not complying. That was the
Yeah.
chairman, by the way. Wes
I
Stanhope
recognize-
was the chairman of the HPP, just for anybody watching, before he was a planning board member, just like Jim was the vice chair of the HPP before he was a selectman.
Yeah. So thank you. I think the way I would interpret it is from a
Okay.
moving forward on an HPP point of view, we said, hey, let's assume that we're going to comply and let's do the work to figure out where to put it. So I think that's just
Okay,
my recollection.
all right. Was there any other questions or comments on what we've presented so far?
Nope.
Okay, so nothing from the board, nothing from people present, and I don't see any hands raised out. Nick Nunemacher is coming this way, but he still has to introduce himself.
Robert Nunemacher, 24 Singletary Ave. I am not a proponent of big government, so it always irritates me when the state tells our town how we should develop and how we should grow. And this is another example of us being forced, I believe this should pass, this type of thing should, they force us to do these things when I think most of the people in the town of Sutton moved here because they like the wide open spaces of the lots. They don't want to be jammed in like the city of Worcester and that types of areas. I see the particular area that you've selected. I believe it totally complies with the law. But I'm just wondering, how long do you think it will take somebody in the state to figure out that Sutton, plus a number of other communities who have done the same thing, are skirting the intent of the bylaw, of the laws, the general laws, in making it in an area where it is probably very unlikely in most people's lifetime that any multifamily dwellings will, units will ever be built in this particular area. And they will force us to do something else. And this, adopting this bylaw while it conforms to the state doesn't answer the real question, which is the cost of building multifamily dwellings, multifamily units. From my experience over the years, development of property for any purpose, single family, multifamily, or anything, has gotten way more expensive, in part because of the rules and regulations of the Commonwealth of Mass and the various departments that enforce the laws, and the various towns that seem to drive up the cost, at least in my department, my expertise in engineering for these particular projects. And the ultimate result is that the homeowner has to pay more for their homes. And unless something is done to mitigate the cost of development, you're not going to see a lot of multifamily dwellings around. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
All right, so let us now.
If I could jump in one real quick.
Oh,
I just
sorry.
wanted to
Here,
make
let me
one
turn on the
comment.
light for a
Yeah,
sec.
no. One of the things that was up on the board was an opinion from the state auditor, and I just wanted to put it out there for the public that I work for the state auditor's office, but I was not involved in this opinion at all. If I had been, I would have to recluse myself from all the discussions and votes, but I was not involved in it all, so I just wanted it out there in case anyone ever
Thank you.
connected the two, so. Go ahead, Jen, you can continue. if you-
All right. So you've seen the area, and we did put a bylaw on file in the town clerk's office. I did post that a while ago, and of course, it's been on file in town clerk's office for a while. And because we're uber transparent around here, I also posted the final revisions from town council from last week as well, up to the website. So, I mean, it's up to the board, but if you want me to just roll through those, I can roll through those on the screen, or just in writing if you want, and just tell you why those additional adjustments were made from my discussion with town council.
If you could put it on the screen, I think sometimes when you're visibly watching that, the pieces of it might be a little easier to read. Those are here, and
Let me just find it. Right. Okay, let's share that to the screen. Okay. So, as I said, this was the second review by town council. The first review, the housing specialist, the MBTA housing specialist, made some relatively minor revisions that were very specific to reviews under the MBTA law. The secondary member of council specializes in zoning in general, but also made some notes as I was talking to him about this, about more recent reviews they've seen by the EOHLC and the Attorney General Office on these bylaws, and recommendations that fall out of that. So, you know, we all learn more as time marches on these things, and so does council. Every single review that comes forward adds a little more, sheds a little more light on how things might be reviewed. This first change was really actually just a recommendation of the member of the subcommittee that I worked with on this bylaw, who noted, you know, while the technical name of the bylaw is Chapter 40A, Section 3 of the Zoning Act, and it's about multifamily housing, a lot of people know it as the MBTA housing law. So that's all we did here, is just note that in here, also known as the MBTA housing law, just to make that clear. It's a good point. Thank you, Andrea. All right, so as we roll through here, the rule of thumb on zoning bylaws is your zoning bylaw has a definition section in it already. So the recommendation of council is to never repeat definitions that are already in your existing bylaw, or that where a term is otherwise directly or indirectly defined somewhere else in your bylaw, and an altering definition or a similar definition might cause confusion. So basically, they recommended striking building coverage as well as mixed-use development, because they exist either within the existing definition section or are defined in some way elsewhere in our bylaw. Further, mixed use is recommended to be struck because you're going to see right below that they're also recommending it be struck here under permitted uses B. The reason they're recommending it be struck there is not because you don't want to allow a mix of uses, but you already allow a mix of uses in Sutton's bylaws. Our bylaws already state you may mix permitted or special permitted uses on a single lot or in a single structure, as long as you meet all the requirements thereof. So again, general rule of thumb, don't restate something you already allow. It can affect the approval process on those different uses, for one thing. So that is a recommendation of council. So you strike that, and then you strike the definition of mixed use. Less is more. All right, this one has always irked me. In the world of planning, engineering, land surveying, we all use the term setback. Buildings should be set back 20 feet from the side lot line, 50 feet from the set. If you look at Sutton's bylaw, we don't actually use the word setback. We use the word yard. So there should be a front yard of 50 feet, a rear yard of 40 feet. So this is literally just a housekeeping recommendation. In our existing bylaw, we do not use the word setbacks, do not use the word setbacks in this table. It's a housekeeping. Interestingly enough, where it says density housing units per acre, this wording came from the state's draft model bylaw. They actually use dwelling units up above and throughout, except for right here where they used housing units. So we're just fixing their mistake here. All right. Town council just wanted this wording cleaned up on this one. So lots used for multifamily housing may have more than one principal building. He just asked that that be changed. Says the same thing, just in a cleaner way. Again, we're striking mixed use because it's already allowed, shouldn't be in here. All right, I'm going to jump over payment in lieu of, we're going to come back to it, okay? Again, striking mixed use. Site plan decisions are generally not recorded. So that's why that's struck. So you could, if you wanted to, it is not the normal practice of recording site plan decisions, even in this case. So that's why that's stricken. They obviously have to be kept permanently on file, and you still are signing, you're endorsing a plan, and that becomes the record plan. As everybody knows, site plans, even endorsed plans, they don't go on file. The only thing that goes on file are subdivision plans and the special permit decisions themselves. Lapse That wording has just been adjusted by town council to be closer to our other existing lapse provisions and the preferred form in law. And severability is super important. We have this in several of our bylaws, but not all. So when we do more of a comprehensive bylaw review coming up in, I don't know, 10 years from now or whenever, the severability clause is super important. Because when things go to the Attorney General's office for review, and in this case, they'll also go to the EOHLC, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, when you have a severability clause, if they find something that is not in concert with the law, a severability clause makes it more palatable and easier for them to strike that section and not have to strike your whole bylaw. So it's not a guarantee if they disapprove something else that the whole bylaw would get thrown out, but the severability clause, again, which we have in many of our other bylaws, makes it a little easier or a little more palatable to make those adjustments, again, only in accordance with existing law. So if we mess something up or we miss something, they can go, oops, that's not in compliance, you have a severability, we're good. And the rest will remain standing, not get chucked. So don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, okay? And then you're going, wait a minute, where's that second article? The second article has been 100% stricken. Why? Why? Why do we not need that second article? Why do you not have to list multifamily housing in your use table or put a footnote next to it, which is what was proposed? Two reasons. Multifamily housing in the town of Sutton is defined one way through the actual dimensional use table. It is a building of up to 4 units and a maximum of 4 units. That's basically how it's defined. And then the definition has some interesting wording as well. Multifamily housing in this bylaw is defined differently. It's 3 units or more, and as you know, up to 15 units per acre. So you have a variance in the definition. And further, what council said is basically the use table is for uses within static districts, okay? So we have a business highway district. In the table, that shows all the uses allowed or prohibited or special permit in those districts. We have an industrial district. This is an overlay district. I did point out, wait, but some of the uses like wireless communication overlay is in the use table. They said, take a good look at that. The only reason wireless communication overlay or marijuana cultivation is in your use table is because it's not only allowed in the overlay district, it's also allowed in the industrial district or in the office light industrial district. So the only time you put overlay district uses in your use table is if they're also allowed in a static underlying district. Otherwise, they're 100% governed by their own individual bylaw within your bylaw. So it's basically a mechanism of law. So basically, you do not need it. You have some conflict between the definitions, and that is not the way it's done, basically, with overlay districts. The use table is for your static districts. Okay, that's it. That's all of them, but let's roll back to now the fly in the ointment, which is the in lieu of provision. All right, so multi-family development in this district only allows a maximum of 10% affordability. So we're just treading water with our affordability requirement. Unless you do an economic and housing study that shows your community needs or should have more. The town of Grafton did that and was able to incorporate more affordability. Not likely that Sutton would meet that criteria, having looked at Grafton's study. So only 10% of the units in here can be affordable. So the thought of the committee was, well, let's allow a payment in lieu of formula. Say the developer doesn't want to do the affordable units, let's put in an ability that the permit granting authority may accept a payment in lieu of those units for all or a portion of those units. Now, in the working group, we weren't able to settle on a formula. So we put in this nifty box, work in progress, determination remains under discussion. Unfortunately, that nifty box cannot stay there when this article goes to town meeting. So we have to do one of two things. I think there's only two choices here. So you can see they did fix the upfront language to make it very clear that the intention with payment in lieu of is never to reduce the amount of units required. If you have a 100-unit development and 10 are supposed to be affordable, under 10%, even if you do in lieu of, you are still producing 100 units. They're just all going to be market rate. So, because that would get stricken like that, especially under this bylaw. So this upfront language is now good, but you have to either A, pick a formula, and I'll pull up a sheet on that, and you do have a sheet in your files of how we got to the one that we did throw forward, or you don't do this. Okay? Those are your choices. You either pull this section. Now, town council has said, both members of town council who reviewed this have said they do not know, they do not think, they think this might get stricken anyways because of the specific language of the law, which allows the ability to establish affordable units. And they're very literal in the law. Units. It didn't say units or a payment in lieu of. It said units. So, and this does not exist in any other MBTA bylaw I've found out there. There is not a payment in lieu of provision in any MBTA bylaw that I've seen to date. So, you have one or two choices. So strike it or put one in. All right. So, if we're going to put one in, the one we started with is this one. So you can ignore that front part, that's the same wording. And we modeled on, Georgetown, Mass. is where we modeled on. There's a lot of different things out there. And we did this formula, and the example is not necessarily part of the bylaw language. We just put the example in there so you can see what it might work out to, okay? So we have, in lieu of payments, we have average market sales price for an equivalent market rate unit in the subject development. If you're gonna do in lieu of, you always want it to be in the subject development, because a development on this lot in this part of town may be entirely different value than a unit in this development in that part of town. And then average market rent for the equivalent market rate unit in the subject development. And then the current HUD affordable rate for a family of 4. They always use the family of 4 whenever they're doing formulas. They just always do, even if it's a family of 2, they just always do. And in Sutton, we've generally went with at 80% AMI as opposed to something less than that. 80 is the maximum average median income. So if you plug in the formula, in this case, for an ownership development, if the average market sales price was $650 for a unit, you'd multiply it, we just use 1. There might be 10, so just so we can see it clearly, you have one of those units you're gonna get a fee in lieu of. You multiply it by 0.6. No, I do not know where the 0.6 came from. I don't know why it's there. I took it from Georgetown. I am not an expert on in lieu of fees, nor is council. So basically council said, look, we can give you an examples, but this is not a legal issue. You may establish this in any manner you want. It is not a legal issue. We can give you examples, and we can tell you once you establish the formula if there's anything illegal about the formula, which there isn't. This is a perfectly legal formula. So that would equate to $390,000. So basically, in this case, you'd say, okay, give us $390,000, and you, instead of selling that unit as an affordable, you can sell it as a market rate. And then we'd be able to take that $390,000, put it in a separate account, and build our own affordable units someplace. In the second example, this is an apartment. So you take the average market rent. So It's around $3,000 right now in this area. You subtract the affordable rent for a family of 4, which is the affordable rent is $2,342. And then you multiply it by 12 months. And in Georgetown, you can see they multiplied it by 10 years. That number came out ridiculously low. I thought, again, I don't know anything about this. I'm giving you that disclaimer. So I did 15 years. In this case, they'd get to keep that unit and rent it at a market rate, and we'd get $118,440 to put in an account. And in effect, in this case, you'd smush it together with a lot of other multifamily 118,000s and try to build a multi-unit building, whether it's 2, a duplex, or a tri, or 6, or whatever. But that's what you do. And again, you can see it was modeled on Georgetown, Mass. There are so many different of these out here. You can see there's Dedham and Wellesley and Wayland, and they're generally calculated by an affordability gap method or a production cost method, and there's some general guidance here. You can read thousands of pages on in lieu of formulas should you be bored enough to do so. It's really complicated. So the question is, or your directive is, you either strike it or you need to put something in here. It can't be a box. So again, unfortunately, we were unable to come to a consensus during the housing production plan process because this is a complicated subject. But up to you what you want to do with it. I tried to give you a little bit of background information and tell you why I went with what I went with, and there's nothing scientific about that. I made an assumption that could be entirely wrong, that people more knowledgeable than me on in lieu of formulas came up with a formula. The numbers don't seem too crazy. So that's what was proposed, basically. And it's understandable, too. It's not Greek. If you look at some of these towns, it's like you need to be a PhD in something just to read the wording. Okay, so any questions on the initial red lines, and then thoughts on the in lieu of?
Thank you, Jen, for that presentation. I think you did a good job of putting together what the housing production plan had thought about this issue, so thank you. I just want to be clear on one piece that you said, though. You said in the other, because we did look at a lot of other towns that have passed and kind of modeling, so we kind of could get a better handle of what will pass. And you said you didn't see any payment?
Any payment in lieu of.
For this particular?
For this bylaw.
For this
There's,
bylaw, right.
the ones I have in here aren't from MBTA bylaws. They're from inclusionary zoning, so, which we've talked about. If you require 15% of housing in an over 55 project to be affordable, those bylaws have in lieu of provisions. And again, not all towns use in lieu of provisions because they want to actually produce affordable housing. So they don't allow a developer to buy their way out of it. They make them build the affordable housing because they want to get to their 10%. So not every town has in lieu of provisions. These are some towns I found that had in lieu of provisions, and you can see the variability. Some of them have some similarities, some of them don't. It's very nuanced. It's very, very nuanced. And again, I chose one that was understandable in the reading. I'm not a builder. I have talked to builders about actual production costs on single-family homes, not on multifamily units, and that first number was actually reasonable to most builders I talked to. But the apartments gets more tricky, you know? And I didn't really talk to in depth. You know, Wes has more knowledge than I on multifamily and what that looks like and what those costs are like, and they're tricky, so.
Okay,
But-
thank you. Yeah,
But
go ahead,
we-
Bill.
When you said pass, Mike, you mean pass through town meeting or pass the Attorney General or the housing, the State Housing Committee?
What's the,
When Mike used the term pass, these other communities pass these.
when they got their MBTA bylaws passed? I didn't find
Through
any
the state.
MBTA bylaws that had an in lieu of provision.
Right, so.
There are plenty of towns that have in lieu of provisions, but not for this bylaw, that I found.
So to clarify, there's 112 that have been applied for and approved, and none of them have this
I
provision.
did not look at 112.
I'm just trying to put it in quantify.
Disclaimer, I did not look at 112.
So if we took the money, we take the $118,000 times 3 in 2037, what are we gonna do with that money?
It sits there until you can use it on something.
So it seems to me if the goal for all this activity is to get affordable housing at the 10% level in the town of Sutton, then we should say we want 15%, forget the payment to get out of it.
Unfortunately, under this law, we can require no more than 10%,
Then it'll be
unless you do
10%.
an economic
Then
study.
I'll revise that to 10%. That's
So-
my thought.
Right.
So just don't do an in lieu of, just you build the 10% and be done.
So just looking at costs, right, because this is what it boils down to, is looking at multifamily construction right now, $365,000 a unit will start to get you construction costs for an apartment. That's not sales price. So we need to be making at least that much in lieu of to start to make it worthwhile where we can start to be a developer. But we're not developers, all right? So we need, if there's gonna be a in lieu payment, that's where it starts to, the baseline. So look at that first one, $390,000. I look at that, I goes, well, that could potentially work because it costs more for them to buy it out. So why would they do that? Maybe because they're doing luxury units and they want to buy it out. We make more money, we could actually build more. Great. So maybe we could build like, they're going to do 18 units affordable. Maybe we could build 20. But you start to look at the other math. You look at 18 units at 118,000, we're $4.4 million in the hole. At 78,960, we're $5.2 million in the hole, versus what their construction costs would be to build those 18 units. So if we are going to do something like this, money needs to cover the construction costs. That's the brick and mortar, not sales price. Or just let them build it.
Yeah. And you see that in the other materials I gave you. There's the cost of construction formulas, it's tricky. It's tricky. And again, in this case, it's max 10%. You may or may not see development under this bylaw. What do you want to do? Mr. Chairman, you do have a hand raised online.
Okay, I think that's Angie, if you could.
Name and address. Andrea, if you want
Yes.
to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Great. Hello, Jen, Mike, and Board West. So 2 thoughts. And I just want to make sure, Jen, I have my facts straight.
Andrea, what's the address on Golf?
Oh, I'm sorry. 21, hasn't changed, Jen. 21 Golf Ridge Drive.
I don't remember yesterday. Never mind everybody's address. Sorry.
No, I'm teasing. If it has changed, you need to tell me. I just paid my taxes. Okay.
Okay.
So we have before us the single bylaw that relates to the MBTA required statute, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we've established that we are limited to a 10% affordable housing requirement here. We cannot require 15, we can't go to 20.
No.
In the discussions with the housing production plan, a payment in lieu as a housing production plan matter was a significant factor. Our chairs, our chair Wes Stanhope and our select board members, Christine Watkins and Jim Edamarna, led us in good discussions on the benefits, the financial benefits of payment in lieu. Generally, for the town of Sutton in the future.
Right. But speaking more broadly, I believe, in terms of,
Speaking more broadly,
Yeah.
right? When we had, these are questions for you and Jim and Wes and Christine, who are on the call to help me understand. So generally, speaking more broadly, if any future bylaws relating to multifamily or single-family residential development should occur that include affordability, we would be looking to a payment in lieu provision in the bylaw. That's what I understood.
yes,
Okay, so here, in a, important but relatively narrow focused bylaw on a single multifamily overlay district, if there is doubt as to whether or not we could put in a payment in lieu provision that worked, not including it for purposes of obtaining the approval of the bylaw at this town meeting might be an acceptable solution, provided that we, the Housing Production Plan Committee, Wes, Jim, and Christine, we believe, and others that are in the room that were on the committee, we can be assured that it does not stop any future ability to craft a bylaw that would include it.
no, I would think frankly, if you're thinking about inclusionary zoning, if you're thinking about, I mean, you want it in lieu of payment in most forms of bylaws, absolutely. No,
Okay,
it
so-
wouldn't, I would say it shouldn't stop it, but everybody needs to dig in, because it's not an easy subject, and it's a lot to understand.
Correct.
And
in
I think you're
fairness
dead
to
on.
everyone- Yeah, in
think-
fairness to everyone well, I don't want to say everyone.
Hmm.
Some, like myself, may have struggled with calculus and algebra. And so therefore, it's important to struggle with this formula because it will have the potential for immediate and significant financial impact if we neglect to do it in the future on other bylaws. But the impact of including it in the MBTA statute for passage at fall town meeting may be to include a provision which is not immediately apparent to a lay reader and might discourage a larger vote in favor of the bylaw. And but we would not be affected if we wanted to do it in the future.
True.
Okay.
I think your point's well taken, that I think you used the phrase, it's important but narrow in scope, this particular
But narrow,
bylaw.
yeah, I am not thrilled, HPP members, that, it doesn't look like this is the place where we want to put it. But, I learned from our chairs, our chair and our vice chair, Wes and Jim, and the comments of Christine, that sometimes a number, you start with a number that's adjusted by inflation or by base market price or construction cost in a bylaw because of its certainty might be more effective than trying to stick in a formula which invites litigation. So if we were all sitting around in the HPP meeting and y'all asked me, I'd say, take it out of here, but make sure that taking it out of here does not impact at all, does not create a precedent that we cannot do it in any future bylaw in our town.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Thank you for your patience with me, Jen and committee.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. So, I don't know if any board members have any comments, and no, we'll get back to you at the end as well if you want to wait.
I
until the
think
end.
Jim has his hand up.
Yeah, I did. Just real quick, Andrew, I think what you said made sense. I think as a town, we should have a mechanism for in lieu of payment in the future. I don't know that it should, delay putting this bylaw together for the town to vote on.
Okay.
So, I
Yep.
think we just have it.
Nice and clearly said.
Well spoken and a quick time limit. Thank you, Jim.
Excellent.
Excellent job. So we'll kind of open it, I mean, I think first, anybody here who's in the audience, who's come, wants to have any comments, please come up and, anybody? Nope. And I know, I mean, Wes too, since you were on the production, if you want to make any comments at this point too. If not, you can wait till we come
Well,
back.
I mean, I think we spoke a lot about this over the past year, had a lot of
Right.
public meetings, and hopefully a lot of people around Sutton have learned about this.
Right.
We're to talk still.
And I mean, I would just throw my 2 cents right now, and I agree that I think we don't want to complicate, because this is very important to pass, in my opinion. We tried to really tailor this so it will pass without complications. I think there's a lot of other developments that, as Andrea had said, can still bring in this in lieu of thing that will be coming down the road that we all had talked about as a board a lot. So this isn't killing that. I think it's just for this limited piece. And given the fact that the other towns that we've looked at don't have this, and we really try to stay in line so that, you know, as we meet the deadlines, we're staying in front of it, you know, as we go along. So I think it's important to stay consistent with those. You know, I don't think this is the one issue we should vary from all the others that have passed through, like, honestly. So that's my 2 thoughts at the moment. Again, anyone else in the audience here if you want to? If not, we'll open it. Oh, go ahead. If you want to come up, sir, please. And
My
again,
name's Gary Primo, 93 Fairway View Drive. Sure. My name's Gary Primo, 93 Fairway View Drive. I think the best thing to do, in my opinion, is just to take it out. I think this is just causing a lot of complication for everybody. It's also causing a lot of complications for the town moving forward. And is it really solving the issue? I mean, all we're doing is kicking the can down the road with meeting our housing requirement. You know, we're gonna have inflationary issues. Who knows where the town budgets will be, you know, going forward. So, you know, my recommendation would be just to take it out and keep it simple.
okay. No,
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Keep
So
it simple, another
Yep.
good saying.
So did anyone else out in the Zoom call? I know we have other members who were on the production board. I appreciate everybody coming, representing the board and talking from the board, but
So excited to see all
It is
these
great to see,
HPP
yeah.
members.
so if anyone else does want to make any comments that's on the Zoom call, please raise your hand.
All right,
Okay.
seeing none. So here's the fun part. All right, so by law, you need to make a recommendation on the articles. You do have 2 articles you've advertised. Per the recommendation of council, the second article should just be stricken. So you can make a separate recommendation if you agree with that to just not, to request that that article not be included in the warrant. The selectmen will review a draft warrant next week, and they won't sign the warrant until later, weeks later. So at this point, you're the sponsor of the article. You can just make a motion that that be, not be included on the warrant, that second article, which is the change to the use table that town council says is not required and creates confusion. That you should not do. The first article, you just need to be careful with the wording. So I would suggest, because we've gone to the effort of putting version dates on our drafts of our bylaws, that you might want to consider a motion similar to, the board recommends that town meeting approve the proposed multifamily overlay district as shown on the map on file in the town's clerk's office and presented this evening, and they approve the 9/3/25 version of the draft bylaw with the removal of the in lieu of section, which we can give you the number on that if you want it to be more formal, if you'd like. Removal of section 6D, payment in lieu of. That would be my recommendation on something similar to that format. You want to refer to the version of the bylaw we just reviewed and go from there.
Okay, thank you. I think, I think we're getting close to a vote, but I did want to just give the other board members, if they did have any thoughts or wanted to express their thoughts on this, in lieu of provisions, as others have all mentioned it, so, you know.
I'll fire away, Mike. I think it's a good idea. I'll make it quick. I think when you start putting in formulas, there's wiggle room, and it's just confusing. And second of all, if we do the in lieu of, as someone else said, you're just kicking the can down the road, you're missing the opportunity to actually gain affordable housing. And the last thing we need is any confusion or complications. It doesn't take much to send the town meeting sideways, and I don't think we need any complications in the bylaw,
Okay, thank you.
proposed bylaw.
Thank you, Bill. Scott, anything?
I'm all for striking number 2. As a planning board member, we have to do what's best for the town. All these formulas are, you're selling something I don't know about. We're gambling with stuff. And if someone's going to get stuck, it's going to be the town. When everything ends up, we're on the short end of it. So I want it to be as clear as possible with number 1, and I support striking number 2.
Okay.
Make it crystal clear.
Scott, any thoughts?
So I just want to clarify, I've already stated about the in lieu of stuff, but the town of, when we're at the meeting, we're sponsoring, the planning board is sponsoring this article.
You are the sponsors of this
Well, we
article.
talked about this before, right? And how do we, I suggested just the opposite at one time, but I'd like to make sure, and maybe this isn't the place to discuss support from the group that brought this to us. It's a wider group, bigger group across the town. I think that support is important, not just that the planning board is sponsoring this article.
Right. And I think the group has heard you. And I think that's why you have 4 members present, and you have 3 members online and 2 members sitting on your board. Because I think the group, from my conversations with them, are committed to making sure their support is felt and seen. So maybe, I mean, I know Wes as the chairman, Jim as the vice chair, Christine as the clerk. There is always an opportunity to speak at town meeting. The planning board is the sponsor and has to do the job of reading their recommendation and giving their brief explanation. But maybe it's very brief and then turned over to the chair or the vice chair or the clerk or somebody from the HPP to just give their brief conversation. And I forgot Pam. I apologize, Pam. 5 members in person of the HPP. Sorry. Whew. To give their brief synopsis of the work the HPP did on it and their support of this particular article moving forward. So,
And I think, if I could add to it, I think just the showing of all these members from the housing production that are here online and is a testament to the work put in by the board. And, it means a lot to them. They put their heart and soul into the many meetings, hashing things out and showing here. I think they do want to see it through, and I appreciate them all coming. So, thank you
As do I.
all. So I think at this point, if we're, any other, Wes, I'm sorry, anything else at this point? No?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay.
I will keep it simple and keep it short.
Thank you. Andrea, anything at this point? Or?
Andrea, you mean Erica?
Erica, I
Andrea's
apologize.
my sister, but okay.
I-
I'm used to getting called that name.
Sorry about that. Sorry
Okay.
about that. So at this point, we'll entertain a motion if somebody wants to bring it up.
I'll give it a whirl. Make a motion that we bring this article forward to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning map entitled Overlay District Map, Sutton, Mass. To create the multifamily overlay district to include 15.6 acre area. Identify the red line symbology shown on the map dated 5/5/2025 on file the Turns Clerk by the town's clerk, and amend zoning bylaw by adding the following section VF multifamily district with the edits of the version dated 9/3/25 and excluding the section D, payment in lieu of affordable units.
I
Thank you.
second that.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Second
That
by
cover it?
Bob.
That cover it?
Okay, we'll take a vote on this first piece. Bob?
Bob Lodges, aye.
Scott Paul, aye.
Mike Gagan, aye.
Bill Talcott, aye.
Wesley Stanhope, aye.
Erica McCollum, aye.
Okay, thank you. This passes 5-0-0. We'll move on to the second piece about,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I'm just want to be clear, I'm going to word that in the standard wording that the planning board votes to recommend that town meeting
That's
pass
fine.
that article,
That's fine.
okay?
Yes, yep.
I think that word escaped me at the time.
And we're gonna entertain a second motion to eliminate the table, changing the table
Number
regulations.
two.
Right, yes.
And that just needs to be a request that it not be included in the warrant, as the sponsor, that it not be included.
So I make a motion to not include item number 2, amend the table of use regulations to allow multifamily dwellings by right within the MFOD on the town warrant.
Second that.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Seconded by Bob. We'll take a vote.
Bob Lodges, aye.
Scott Paul, aye.
Mike Gagan, aye.
Bill Talcott, aye.
Wesley Stanhope, aye.
Erica McCollum, aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0-0. If there's nothing else, we'll entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on the MFOD.
Second that.
Second by Wes, thank you. Bob?
Aye.
Scott Paul, aye.
Mike Gagan, aye.
Bill Talcott, aye.
Wesley Stanhope, aye.
Erica McCollum, aye.
Okay, motion to close this public hearing passes 5-0-0. Jen, do we have anything else that we?
We have nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
I make a motion that we adjourn at
Second.
8:20.
Second.
seconded by Scott. Thank you, Bob and Scott. We'll take a vote.
Aye.
Scott Paul, aye.
Mike Gagan, aye.
Bill Talcott, aye.
Wesley Stanhope, aye.
Erica McCollum, aye.
Okay, the motion to close this meeting is 5-0.
Look at
To
those
adjourn
thumbs
this
up
meeting is
online.
5-0. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Out of pocket, and I've been reimbursed.
Okay.
I've never had to, luckily, I haven't reached the 1,000 max for individual, and I think is it 2,000 maybe for a family plan?
Average, yeah.
And then one last question. So, did we get to the bar graph yet for the certified free cash as a percentage of the budget? Or we have not gotten to that one yet? Okay. So,
Would you mind holding off on that question
Yep.
until Austin, and Tim talks a little bit about what's going on the slide?
Yeah, I did. I just talked about that one. Yeah.
Okay, I
Just
didn't know if there was
expenditure.
anything else that you
Yeah.
wanted to cover. Tim, anything on this?
No, I think that was it.
All right,
I
Christine.
did have one other thing, but I can't remember it now when we were talking just now.
Just Christine, if I could, just on the building permits. So from FY '22 to '23, 22's estimated budget for building or licenses and permits, we'll call it, was $79,000. For FY '23, I assume because we knew Unified was coming, we boosted that budget to $420,000.
okay. And then it dropped
And then
down because the
dropped it
building
back down.
happened.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I know what I was going to say. I don't remember, Jesse, you might remember, or Jonathan, the year that we sold the gravel pit,
Oh,
That money came in as local receipts.